What's up, guys? Casey and George back on another Tuesday. I almost said Thursday, George. I'm all kinds of messed up because I actually don't have to go to work tomorrow. I'm done for the week, getting some Thanksgiving dinner, which is going to be awesome. It's my most favorite food of the entire year. I'll eat that stuff for about 2 weeks. But of course, we got to thank TSR Racing Products, Champs Performance Parts, BRG 3D printed parts, Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas, and Driven Racing Oil, where you can use the code GBR10, get yourself 10% off and free shipping to your door. So, George, are you ready for the Thanksgiving dinner?
I'm ready. And I'm just hoping not to gain 35 pounds. If I don't gain 35 pounds, I'll be fine. I'm trying to keep the car going about that 300 faster, so I don't need to put on 35. So, no, definitely I don't have to work either. So, you can't really complain about this time of year. Getting vacation days, got a few to burn up. I got a few more to burn up before the end of the year. I'm gonna have to give them back, and I'm pretty sure nobody wants to give back free PTO time. So definitely a pretty fun time of year. It feels great outside. Everybody knows I'm a northerner, a Yankee, whatever you want to call it. So I kind of enjoy the cold weather. Everybody's got on parka coats, and it's 30 degrees outside at night, and it's like I got on a pair of shorts and a T-shirt. People looking at me like I'm ignorant, but I just don't care because that's just how I do it. I'm used to it, guys. So, but otherwise, man, this is my time of year as well. Bring on the pecan pie, and as I've seen about 15 times on anybody's Facebook feed, you can keep the green bean casserole at home because I'm not a fan of green bean casserole.
Hey,
okay,
I'll take it because I am.
So I know that's like the debate of the year right now is who eats green bean casserole and who doesn't. Well, if you bring it to my house, it's just going to be sitting there. So I hope somebody else is on the docket to eat it because I ain't eating it.
I'll take it, man. Give it to me. I only get it one time a year, and I am a big fan of it. Got Dylan Champion over here. Congratulations to him, by the way, man. He just entered his first Top Bulb race, and I was pretty proud of him this year. He got him and Adam Boulia got that car lined out, and it was repeating to the 330 about as good as anything. And unfortunately, it got a little cold, and Coastal Plains decided they were going to cancel the race. Not really cancel it, but just kind of split amongst whoever was left. I want to say there were about 18 cars, and he was still in there, man. So not too bad for his first trip off the top,
Yeah, and guys, bear with me. I got a few technical difficulties sneaking up on me on Casey's side there. It's telling me one of my mics isn't picking up any sound. Well, I already know that because it ain't picking up any sound and I've disabled it, but it still wants to be a butthole. Anyway, I'm just going to unplug it. Maybe that'll help. But so basically, that was his first round, race, if I'm not mistaken myself, switching to an alky carburetor. Am I right?
I think he's ran it a little bit, but he finally just got it lined out. So
got you.
It worked out pretty good. He said there was 100 cars over there in top. I want to say maybe 50 foot brake cars. So not bad for basically Thanksgiving, Unfortunately, I think the weather's looking a little bit grim for the loose rocker race in Darlington this week. I hope that things change for that. I haven't seen any announcements on loose rocker side of things yet, but I just hope there's some racing to watch over Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah, man, that would be great. Something to do would be nice, man. I see you over there. Cody Newman is saying they had their Thanksgiving last month in the Great White North. That's pretty cool, man. And welcome to the show, Roy Stewart. Thanks for joining us. Kevin Grider, as always. Welcome on in there, man. So, Casey, what we got going on today, man? I know there's a lot of things that are going to be on everybody's mind this offseason as we begin the winter series and begin talking all winter long about drag racing, kind of bench racing / what can we do to make things better? You know what I mean? What are we doing today on the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel?
Well, you just reminded me also, I want to shout out Roy Stewart because that purple dragster that started this YouTube channel, Roy Stewart owns that car, and he actually just runnered up at King of the Coast at Galen Rollison's race down there, down south. And he put it in the finals, and he sent me a pretty funny picture. He said, here's this year dragster, here's this year dragster. And I said, the only difference looks like the body. And he said he sent it to Danny Nelson also, and he said he laughed at it. So, but So congratulations, Roy. Also, it's still a good car. Still repeating, got a good driver in the seat for sure. The thing I was kind of thinking about earlier today was, how do you think diesel fuel prices are going to affect bracket racing in 2023? And the reason I was thinking about that was because I had to pick up my boy from daycare yesterday, and I was driving by and I'm like, man, there ain't no way diesel fuel is $2 a gallon more than gas. It's crazy. And I was like, how's this going to affect racing next year? So what's your thought on that?
Yeah. And as I read some posts here, I see Paige Hamlin chiming in here. A lot of things will be happening this winter, George. Yeah, I think I'll be chiming in and watching all the fun festivities of winter 2022, as it's bound to be a pretty good one. It's going to be a lot to talk about, I can promise you that. So either make sure you subscribe to Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, either by Facebook or by YouTube, or get on the old podcast. Casey's got us all caught up, I think. So get on the old podcast. He's still behind. We'll get you caught up here.
I'll get him caught up now. Now I got some days off. I'll get it caught up.
Yeah. So no, man. I think we prefaced last year, and maybe we were just a year ahead of time, is the way I see it, Casey. Because the conversation is seemingly the same. I mean, I went back and watched a couple of the Winter Series episodes on the YouTube channel just to kind of get a feel for today's thought process. And I mean, we're almost in the same position, but it's seemingly it's taken effect a year after what we expected it to. I expect for us to see again more 10s, more 5s. I expect to see racetracks begin to keep in mind, us drag racers need to stay at the track for more than one day on an event. So what used to be your Saturday points event could eventually become points day race number 1 and points day race number 2. I just think it has a lot of merit with prices the way they are, especially if they don't begin to budge, which, heck, man, the way they're pushing electric, I don't think they're gonna budge anytime soon. So I'm not gonna get political on this channel, because that's not how we do it here at Going Bracket Racing. But as far as gas prices go, they're not gonna budge, and that's gonna have some type of effect. Keep it in mind, guys, this is an open discussion, so I'm gonna be looking at both chats. Casey's gonna be looking at the YouTube. I'll be looking at the Facebook on both Monday Morning Racer as well as Going Bracket Racing, and feel free to leave your thoughts. So, Casey, that's thought number 1. I feel like, and I'd like your thought process as we go back and forth, but how do you think about, when, I know you remember what we spoke about last year, it just happening a year later, so to speak, and possibly going to be a year worse, going to be a little bit worse next year. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I kind of always go back to the idea that Troy Abercrombie had. I don't know. I was actually texting back and forth with him this last weekend about just general stuff, but he had said that, a lot of these people are self-employed and maybe it doesn't affect them as much because as long as there's a labor shortage, they're swamped, so they aren't necessarily concerned about the fuel prices because they got the money coming in. As long as you have the money coming in, it doesn't matter. As long as the money coming in is more than the money coming out, and it's the same percentage relatively, then it doesn't make a difference. And, it kind of goes back to the fact that this entire year, man, since everything shot up around February or so, somewhere around there, January, maybe something like that. So you're talking, dude, as of today, it's November 22nd. So we've basically gone an entire year with these high gas prices, and bracket racing in 2022 was seemingly bigger than it ever has been. Period. We thought last year was something. This year has had record-breaking, numbers of racers show up all across the country. So, it kind of leads to say, why would anything change for next year whenever this year was already record-breaking?
Yeah, and that makes sense, And I'm gonna look in the chat here at Michael Disseldorf. He's Mike Disselhorst, my bad, man, messing up your name, but he's saying gas prices fall dramatically come election time. Yeah, man, but that's 2024. Right. We're not looking at a run until not this year, but the year after that. So in the meantime, what do we do? And that's what this stream's going to be about. So Next thing that I'm thinking here, as far as for those gas prices go, what are promoters looking at? Is my thought process, and I can begin to see, as I've already mentioned, more fives and tens. I think that's going to be noticeable across the board. Now, that doesn't go to say that I feel like the crowd for the bigger money bracket races, that they're going to diminish at all. It's kind of like what you said, Casey. If the money's coming in, or if you already got the money there, which I don't. I'm budget racer squared. I'm budget racer. Hey, how are you? But if the money's already there, they're going to go bracket racing just as they did this year. You know what I mean? So it's not going to shock me to see 500 cars at the OG Million again, or 500 cars at Galen Rollison's race or SFG's race. Who's ever putting on the race? It's not going to shock me to see that many cars show up, even though gas prices are the way they are. What do you think, man? Because let's be honest, what I see is still a little bit cheaper than the majority of the racing season this past season in the first place. Like in Texas, it's $4.30. I don't know what it is by you, but you're right to say that unleaded's like $2.60.
Yeah, it's $1 more here, it seems like, just for reference. But Bracket Racer 9622 says, I think a lot of people thought this might have been the last year for big money. I think I don't think that it's true that this is the last year for big money, but I do think, and you can look back in the Golden Bracket Racing, YouTube channel archives, that we kind of were thinking that as well. We also thought this might be the last year for big money, that people weren't willing to spend the money. And honestly, like I said, until Troy kind of put that idea in our heads, like, hey man, these guys are self-employed. They might base their business around racing. Maybe they do all their work over the wintertime and they're going racing no matter what. Maybe they don't have to necessarily drive home after the race. Maybe they stay in their motorhome and maybe they go on vacation with their family. Maybe it's similar, like my wife's a teacher. If I was self-employed and I had the option, like, all else constant, if I could get all my work done in, say, 8 months or 9 months, whatever it is, well, I could take my entire family and just go racing for that 3 months. And also maybe people are condensing their schedules into said 3 months in the summer and going racing all at once, because there are times throughout the year where you have a mega money race every single week for about 2 months straight. So, and because they race multiple days, you could potentially get more racing done than the average guy who goes racing every single weekend. You could get more races in by going to, say 2 months worth of big money racing 4 or 5 days a week, and races along the way to get there, that maybe that's what they do.
It's possible. And it's not all the way doable for a lot of us. I mean, the majority of us here at the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, I won't say all of us because we have a very wide range of followers on this channel, but there is a pretty big group of us who are the budget racer. I don't even have a motorhome. So that seemingly is not going to work for me per se, right? The only beautiful thing about if that were something that I could do is that I am a corporate America worker, and guess what? I'm remote. So I don't have to go far from where I'm sitting right now. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting in my office at my desk chair to go to work. That means if I load up my laptop, jump in a motorhome with an internet connection, seemingly I can hit every race in this dang country as long as I can get PTO on Thursday through Sunday, or I don't need it on Sunday, of course, right? I mean, you make me work on Sunday. I don't have to work on the weekends, but Thursday and Friday PTO, and then I'm at the race for the rest of the week. You know what I mean? I might not be able to do the Wednesday warm-up or time trial race or whatever because I have to work, but at least I'm there for the main event. So I wonder how often that is actually the case in bracket racing right now. Seemingly, everything has moved to the virtual space. It's not really anymore. I won't say it's not popular anymore, but the majority of companies are going to a virtual based anything. What do you think, man? You think the virtual aspect of things is allowing us to go racing a little bit more as a buffer?
That's true, man. There's a lot of opportunity where I guess, if I had, say, a living quarters trailer or a motorhome, I mean, I personally could do that as long as I could get a good enough internet connection, because I just do architectural plans through the internet anyway. It doesn't matter where I'm at, but I have to have X hours that I'm working, as far as like I got to work these hours. Like I typically work at my time, I work 6 to 4.
Right.
So, now the good part about racing is you could potentially be in the lanes, but I got to be at a computer,
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know how I'd work that out. But I could see that happening. I could see a lot of people being able to do that, especially people who do, people who are realtors, for example. They could easily work from wherever they want as long as they have an internet connection. So you might be onto something as far as that goes.
You know what I mean? And I had just thought about that sitting here, but seemingly, if I had a motorhome in a very fast internet connection, Casey, I could see where using the loose rocker master schedule, which in my opinion is going to be all the more important this year than it was any other year. But this year in particular, that master schedule, when it drops, it's going to be crucial for some of us because as we plan our races, we have to keep in mind where everything's going to be located. That allows us the ability to go from, say, Darlington to Bristol. You know what I mean? Well, we've got those races scheduled close enough together to where we can. So, I don't know. It was just a kind of a spitballing thought here. I didn't even have it in my mind whenever we started this show, but I hope a lot of people are able to take advantage of that.
But DJ Coventry over here in the YouTube chat is saying people might start showing up with open trailers and smaller rigs. That's true. And Supercomp's over here actually talking to DJ saying, I sold my motorhome a few months ago. I'm tired of paying $1 a mile to go racing. I'd rather pay entry fees at the gas station. Bird Up saying, I need a work from home job spending $400 in gas a month. So, I mean, that's the truth, man. Clearly it's right here in the chat. There's a lot of people getting rid of those big rigs because they don't want to pay that $1 a mile anymore. It might not be worth it. It might be going back to being cheaper, kind of like before motorhomes became a thing, whenever they were all new, because if you can't find something used, clearly a new whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter if it's a pocket knife, it's a motorhome, if it's a trailer, whatever. The fact of the matter is a brand new one is always more expensive than a used one. Well, at some point, there wasn't a used one available. And I've heard this a million times. I think Jim Simmons actually said it all the time whenever I was a little kid. I heard him a million times saying, man, for that $100,000 motorhome, and we know that isn't that expensive anymore.
Right.
For that $100,000 motorhome, that's a lot of hotel rooms.
That's true. It's true. Now, of course, I would love to have the motorhome part of it, but I'm going to look at Kevin Gratter's comment. He says, I'm old school. I go racing to get a heck away from work. Hey, I'd like to get the heck away from work, KG, but if I can go to the racetrack and then get the heck away from work while I'm at the racetrack, doesn't that sound better? I'm already there. I pulled my rig on a Sunday. I post up as long as they allow it at said track, and maybe I'm at a motorhome if I had one. Well, I go to work until Wednesday, and you end the weekend and go racing. That would just be fun to me. Anyway, but good point, Casey. You know what I mean? And I'm just thinking that we're going to have to use our brains here as a whole when it comes to how are we going to race next year with these gas prices. That's what I think. I see another comment on YouTube if you see it.
There's a comment, and this might be the one you're talking about. Old Racer says, I'm old, hence the name, first of all. Still sleep on the floor of the trailer with the back door down. There might be a lot of that going, man. I've thought about that myself several times. Just the fact of, you don't necessarily always need a hotel room. I never knew until I moved to North Carolina. There's several tracks out here that have shower houses, man. That's something that needs to happen. Multi-day races have shower houses, or multi-day races, and have shower houses. And, there you go. Now you have essentially a campground. And now you can utilize that for concerts. You can do all kinds of stuff. So maybe this is a time that tracks might want to invest into infrastructure at the track.
Yeah, I think that's becoming the norm anyway. I feel like I know Extreme has a few showers. I know Ardmore has a few showers. I think Poseidon Raceway I-30 has a few showers as well. But I can't be 100% sure on the I-30. But that's excellent, man, for us who have to sleep in the truck, including myself. I will sleep in the truck if I have to. It is what it is. I am one of those open trailer with just a 2000 F350 to pull it. So So be it, right? That works for me. But I don't know, Casey. I just feel like definitely getting a lot worse here. So,
man, Eric White over here, I think might be reading my mind. He says opportunity for tracks. Attract locals to enter more races at their local track. Tracks could step up their regular payouts or run their own mini big money races, 2 or 3 day 5Ks, even 10Ks. That's something, Eric, that we're getting to here in about a second, because that's kind of where I want to lead this direction. I personally think that these high fuel prices could actually highly benefit these local tracks if they were to get, if they were to kind of coordinate and really talk about how they're going to make it happen.
Yeah, you're right. That is going to spill into some thoughts that I have in my head as well. Hang in there, guys. You know how we do it at the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. Got to show some love to all of our sponsors, which I don't even remember if we mentioned in the beginning of the show. Casey probably did it, and I was just blacked out trying to figure out some of these technical issues I think I have solved now. But hang in there. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177. All right. Welcome back. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. Definitely can't be possible without TSR Racing products and BRG 3D printed motorsports. We can't do it without you guys. We appreciate you. More so, we appreciate the fans. If you guys have anything you're needing, make sure to go ahead and help out who's helping us out, all of us as a community, to be honest here. So definitely thank you to you guys out there for always joining in and shooting the breeze with me and Casey as we push out some of the most common or most talked about topics in bracket racing right now. Casey, where are we going next?
Well, we were kind of starting with, like Eric White was saying over here. In my opinion, high diesel fuel prices are a major opportunity for local tracks if they're willing to seize the opportunity that they have available, or see it as an opportunity, I guess you'd say, because it's very easy to say, woe is me, racing's going to die. We know from having Brett Kempner on the show, a few episodes back, that racing never dies. Everybody always says it's going to, but it doesn't. High fuel prices at the end of the day, what that's going to do is that's going to keep people closer to home. But it didn't take their racing money necessarily. It took their diesel fuel money to get somewhere else. They still have their entry fee because they were still going to pay that same entry fee wherever they were going. So in my opinion, people still have their entry fee money. They still have their buyback money. They still want to go racing, clearly, because when times are bad, what you want to do is go out and hang out with your racing friends. That's what I want to do. You don't have to worry about it whenever you're out there. But, well, let me just ask you, in your opinion, you're obviously in Texas. You're around a lot of tracks kind of like me, at least within a general radius. If you could do anything for local bracket racing in your area in 2023, what would you personally want to see happen?
Yeah, personally, and that's actually a great question. I'm pretty sure it's on the minds of everybody in the Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Metroplex, whatever you want to call it here. But seemingly, I have 3 tracks within an hour of every direction. Name it. I mean, I can't go. I can't go to the, which way is that? I guess I could, because there's a track out there Kevin Grander goes to. I just have never gone to it. But in an hour, I can go to Nardmore, I can go to Paris, I can go to I-30, and I can go to Extreme. And that's 4 tracks, and I said 3. Sound like Biden again, but my bad. Anyway, what I want to see happen is already happening, in my opinion. A little bit of coordination between tracks in this area is going to make bracket racing all the more better, especially in this area. There's just so many tracks, okay? XRP, if they do anything to work with I-30, Poseidon Raceway this year, bracket racing in this area is going to be substantially better because of it. Because now we can have multi-day events that say, okay, let's go to I-30 this weekend. There's 2 points races. $5,000 to win each race, $3,000 to win each race. Who cares? It's something in that range, okay? The next weekend, well, XRP's doing the same thing. Or even a week break and then do it again. But the coordination of tracks to host races that are the weekend long instead of just one day, that's going to equal more racing for everybody. Instead of, oh, this track's better than that track, or this track's better than that track, you get everybody kind of eating out of the same breadbasket, which equals a whole lot more bracket racing for the area. That's going to make it all the better. I feel like that's going to be a commonality with any place that has this many tracks within an hour. So I think each one of them is IHRA sanctioned right now. So, I mean, obviously you have the ability or an open door policy from what I'm seeing with IHRA to get a hold of one another and work together. So I hope that's what happens. That's number one. Let me hear your number one.
Well, I have a long drawn out one, to be honest with you, but it's similar to what you're talking about. I was actually, just side note over here, I saw Michael Beard in the chat over here saying he started using that 88 octane E15 that Sheets sells, and he's paying $1.89 a gallon. Actually has noticed that it increases his fuel economy. So that's something to think about too. Maybe it won't be that big of a deal. Supercomp is actually saying that he did a similar thing because it's cheap, just hopes it doesn't corrode anything. So anyway, we'll go back to what we're talking about here. Me personally, what I would like to see, everybody knows that watches GBR knows that I think VMP Triple Threat is probably one of the greatest series out. That's as far as the local series goes. It's by far what I think a lot of places should adopt for a plan. They have, I want to say, 4 weekends per year. They do have a Megabucks version. It's a little bit higher than I would like to see. It can't be something that most places could adopt because they're like, I want to say 10, 20, 10s for their regular stuff. And I think their Megabucks one even has $100,000. So it's still a little bit out of the reach. They have great attendance though. And their entry fee, I want to say for the smaller one is only $425. So it's definitely reasonable, but they have a points program with it. And what I would like to see is a series similar to that amongst smaller tracks. That would be, say, like a 5-10-5 or maybe a 10-15-10 or something like that. Because if VMP could, if VMP can do the 10-20-10, and I might be saying this wrong, but I do know the entry fee I think was $425. But seemingly, if they could do that for $425, then a 5-10-5 would essentially be half price. So whatever half of $425 is, that seems very affordable for a 3-day race, especially when you're talking about adding in a points program. I mean, there's a lot of racers that are more budget style racers like we were talking about earlier in the show. Do you have anything to add on that before I continue on my super awesome plan for North Carolina?
I think that it would be a great deal. I do. I definitely still have to see some coordination amongst tracks to be able to pull it off. This whole scheduling on top of people with local tracks, I can understand these big money races because there's just so many of them. And there's only so many spots that are showing to be lucrative for you to take a race to in the first place. I'd like somebody to add Texas to the list because Texas is ready for a bigger 10 or a bigger, a blown out 50. You know what I mean? Bring one of those big races down. Anyway, I'm campaigning for Texas. But a little bit of coordination is just, I'm going to stick to that because I feel like we get into the competition a little too much amongst each other. I represent I-30 or I represent XRP. XRP racers are better than I-30 racers. Hey, I don't want to hear it. Bring it all into one big place and let's eat out the same bread basket and let's crown the DFW area champion. What's the problem with that point series going from XRP to I-30? You know what I mean? You get to wiggle out one of those or whittle down one of those home court advantages because everybody races XRP has to come to I-30 and vice versa. So I mean, just coordination. That's all I'd throw to it.
Right. And Michael Beard, he's always all about that math and everything. He's probably got a calculator right next to him already, but he's saying, whoa, don't forget, you cut the entry fees and payouts in half. You also cut the net the net in half. Math doesn't work. I'm talking hypothetical here. I'm trying to make a case. That's not my job to make the math work. That's Michael Beard's job to make the math work. So I'm just saying what would be a cool idea. This is all hypotheticals. But that being said, the math can be whatever you want it to be. A good race is a good race, period. And we know Michael Beard has the capability of putting on some of the best races out there. But my idea, I just started looking at a map earlier today whenever I was eating lunch. And I was kind of just mapping out the tracks that are still active that are commonly raced at in North Carolina. Obviously, there's tons and tons of tracks in North Carolina in a general radius, but I never really looked at it on a map before as far as how easy it is to get from one track to the other, considering the country as a whole and what people are used to traveling. Cody Newman knows exactly what I'm talking about more than anybody. But the fact of the matter is, in North Carolina around me, there are several tracks. There's 8 within a 4-hour radius or so of each other. And they're smaller tracks other than, I would say, Galat Motorsports Park, obviously, is kind of the pinnacle of North Carolina drag racing right now. But between Coastal Plains, Kinston, Galat, Roxborough, you can throw in Farmington, Piedmont, Mooresville, and I think Wilkesboro opened again. That's 8 tracks. Why couldn't you just one of those a month have Michael Beard saying, that numbers didn't work? Well, we could even say like a 2,500, a $5,000, and a 2,500. I really think that'd bring a lot of local racers out, because if you put a points program along with that, CCRA, Carolina Class Racers, they travel around all those tracks and everything. I want to say they might have had like 20 races scheduled last year or something like that, at least in the high teens. But, you can legitimately have one every single month as long as you didn't schedule it on some sort of big money event or kind of put some thought in it. And every track could kind of share in this type of local racer style big money event. So what are your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's spot on. And again, you can take that thought process everywhere, I think. I mean, yeah, you got a few more tracks than what I think might be here, unless I get down into Houston and head out east towards Wichita Falls and places like that, where there are a few more other tracks. So again, the math part of it, I'm an insurance agent. I can do math, but I'm not trying to do the math around how to make a bracket race successful workout. Now, if somebody wants to teach me, I know I can learn it, right? So I'm all ears. But I do think it would enhance, not only would it enhance the local race, it's going to enhance turnout. Because if you structure it right, especially if we're not paying back to the 8ths or the 16ths or whatever, we got to figure out how to pay back a little bit further, number one. And I think, if I'm not mistaken myself, I'm seeing that start to happen. Okay, at least someone is looking into how to get the word round money to move a little bit further along and be a little bit more impactful, which we've been calling for that for I don't know how long, probably since GBR has been alive, right? So if we begin to see that happen, you're going to see the stands pack, or at least the pits pack, at all of these races. So definitely don't have anything I can argue with about what you just said. Right.
And Michael Beard's saying Anthony Walton, I guess, tried that already with the Carolina Coalition, Carolina Bracket Series. It had been done, but the support failed. Both were great deals for the racers. I wonder why it would have failed, what the reasoning is, because I've heard a lot about the Carolina Coalition races back in the day. Now that he mentions it, I remember hearing about that. And everybody that I talk to, and this is how it is with everything, though, there's tons and tons of scenarios where there's a lot of racers saying, I want this in my area, I want that in my area, I wish someone would come out here, I wish, this would be brought to us, but I don't have the ability to do it. Why do you think that racers ask for something and then they ultimately don't support it? Do you think that they just say that because they want a reason to not attend, essentially, or to kind of make an excuse why they can't go? What do you think would entice the racer to come? Because seemingly a great deal for a race doesn't necessarily provide racers. Why do you think that is? Is it scheduling? Is it, what is it?
I don't have the answer to it. I know that happens quite a bit, though. People are saying, hey, let's have this race here. That wouldn't happen in Texas, by the way, guys. You build it and we will come. Here I am promoting Texas again. But I just see that has happened more than once, where people say have a race here and then don't support it. So I don't know what the overall solution to fixing that problem is, but I'm pretty sure that that's a known issue, especially for the bigger promoters who are trying to have bigger races in new areas. People are starting to pay attention to, okay, that didn't work. What do I do to tweak it? So, I mean, where I might not be able to say I have the answer, somebody is eventually going to show us what the answer is, to where all of us could piggyback off of it. And then next thing you know, we do have these races that are coming to the areas that don't readily get them become successful, And that's the only way to make a points program success. You have to entice every racer. What is the problem that I can see here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? The reason why I-30 or Poseidon has less of a showing than XRP sometimes. The race is exactly the same, but people aren't showing up to support each track. Why is that, is what we have to figure out. And I don't have the why. I don't.
I think that, honestly, I think a lot of it could be solved with having a very enticing points program. Because if you hang a carrot out there for people that's worth whatever you like, it would almost need to be something that makes it valuable even to be in the top 20, to be honest with you, because you need a lot of people to be like, well, I'm in reach of somebody who's in 50th place could still get in the top 20. Somebody who's in 50th place can't get in the top 10. Stevie Dustin proved us wrong. He's one of the very, very few that's ever done this, coming from 23rd, we said, all the way to first at VMP.
Winning it. Yep.
That's very uncommon. However, if you could have some sort of enticing points program, and if it was a long enough series, you could probably get a lot of sponsors involved, to be honest with you, because it would be something you'd be promoting all year. So you would say, yeah, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. And they'll be like, whoa, that's a lot of money, but I'm going to promote you all year long on all sorts of social media platforms. Therefore, it's negligible once you say, oh, I'm going to talk about you every single week for 52 weeks or something like that, So,
right.
At the end of the day, I think that it all kind of comes down to the points program and getting people invested, being like, man, on one hand, I don't want to go to this last race, but if I get to fourth round each day, there's a good chance I might be in the top 10, and that might be worth X amount of money or X amount of certificates or X amount of, maybe I'll get a new pair of slicks. I definitely need that after this year, something like that.
Right. And I'm going to take Sean Pinkerton's his thought process here. And this is basically along the lines of how come we end up hosting a race and asking for a race, and then that said race doesn't actually pan out, right? And he's saying here, Sean's saying, from what I've found is some promoters make decisions on programs and locations only hearing the voices of the minority, thinking that it is the majority. And I feel like that is probably really spot on. But again, how do you solve that problem? Social media alone can't solve that problem, right? Even when you think of, say, for instance, you do a study, you can only sample a certain amount of said study. You can't sample the whole thing, okay? So you're taking your quote-unquote sample off of a small product and then thinking that it's going to fix or fit the whole bill. It's not. It never will, right? So you have a lot of merit to what you're saying, Sean Pinkerton there. I definitely agree with what you're saying, but how do you fix it? That's a hard part.
Right.
Casey, I've seen another good comment in your chat, and I'm going to get another one out of here. I got one here from Kyle Rumley. He's saying lack of sponsorship and lack of communication is 9 out of 10 the problem, I believe. And I'm going to stop right there and say communication. Hey, I'm going bracket racing's George Atchison. That's Casey. You need to communicate something. Here we are, especially if it comes to a race. I broadcast races all day long. I don't care what race it is. If you want to have a race and it supports the betterment of bracket racing, I will broadcast it. Tell me everything you want to tell the people about it, and we'll get it out there. I promise you that. He goes on to say you have to build relationships with companies to build a successful program more times than none. Secondly, customer service. You have to treat racers fairly. Hold on. That seems to get left behind a lot nowadays. Just my 2 cents. Appreciate you guys. Hey, man. Kyle Rumley, you're right. All those things are something that people are looking for. It's almost like True Start, for crying out loud. Why do I always go back to True Start? Because I got burned by it. So I'm going to talk bad about True Start until it helps me. Well, the other hand of that is there are a lot of people who like True Start that may have been burned, but they may have got the positive side of True Start as well. But what does that equal? That one bad time that George had with True Start is going to get talked about by George all the time. Isn't that the case with everything? What do you think, Casey?
Oh, yeah, man, absolutely. I think any negative comment, first of all, always has 100 guys thinking that guy's an idiot, first of all. And that's just a fact of life, period. There's a lot of people that happens to. But Eric White's over here saying, how about we talk on ideas of increasing track revenue that doesn't rely on more money coming in from the racers, putting fans in the stands, advertising the track and a local attraction like a ballpark stadium, concerts, camping, etc. That I agree with that 100%, man. And I think that as far as the racing goes, I think that, for example, you take just his ideas here. If you advertise at a local ballpark, a quick 16 style program, like we've talked about on this show, a few episodes ago, I don't know, maybe a month ago at this point, honestly, there's like 100 episodes of Going Bracket Racing Live, which is on a playlist here. If you want to go back and watch it, it's somewhere back there. But I think it's called like Quick 16 and Quick 8s or something like that. But especially in the Carolinas, Jay Cox lives down the street from me. One of the major pro nitrous racers. He's going to run Wes Buck's World Series Pro Mod. I mean, you're talking 4 pairs of cars, but they're pro mods. Guess what is, the highest popularity that it's ever really been since 20 years ago? Pro mods because of Street Outlaws. You could have a Quick 8 program. Some of these Street Outlaws live around this general vicinity. You could have them come out and just grudge race, no time race. There's going to bring a bunch of fans out. And like Eric's saying here, now you don't have to get the money from the racers. But guess what? Maybe one of those people in the stands is like, man, some of these bracket cars, I could bring my Mustang out here and I could race with the foot brake class. And maybe then all of a sudden you got one more racer coming in all the time. Maybe then you are getting more money from the racers because you're getting more racers in the gates. I mean, that's the key. People have forgot the spectacle that drag racing is. And you can always improve bracket racing because it's going to bring, bracket racers want to go see those fast cars too. They're always going to run to the fences when they hear zoomies, Now, Jamie Holston, he's got a bracket car. It sounds like the world's ending. You always know when he's running, but they'll run to the stands to see him too.
No, man. Hey, but there's just so much. And I see Kyle Rumley saying easy now on the True Start. He's a slow door car. Hey, man, I run 6 seconds. 6 flat. I ain't that fast. It ain't that slow, but heck, I leave first the majority of the time. So, there you have it. And I see another True Start comment from Kurt Cunningham. And then a few more agreements on the experience of the racer and the drawings that happen at some of these races coming out of Anthony Hurst. That's just the way it is. It goes back to what Kyle Rumley's saying. You have to have a good relationship with some of these other entities in order to kind of help you pitch into said race. So And then that's always going to be the case. Casey, what you got over there at YouTube?
I got another good comment here from Michael Beard saying, from the track level, the toughest thing is they have so many events. It's almost impossible to give one event the same level of detail and attention as the other one. Putting a flyer out the week before doesn't work. That's 100% correct. And I think that's one of the things that Galat Motorsports Park, I think that's one of the things they do right, because yes, they have pretty much every weekend full, but it's not bracket racing every single weekend. You know what I mean? Like, they'll have their bracket program, 2 days, I would say once a month. I think there's 1 month where they have 2 in 1 month, but they also have monster trucks. They, I think, are getting ready to finish a stage so they can have concerts. They have a lot of no time events. They have PDRA. They have a divisional for NHRA. There's a lot of stuff that they're not necessarily 100% focused on. Those people bring in their own people, and they kind of just operate their facility, and those people manage a lot of what's going on. And I think that's what a lot of tracks have forgotten. You have a lot of land there. You don't necessarily need to do your local program every single weekend, and doing some of this other stuff might, for example, monster trucks, perfect example. People want to come out, see monster trucks, bring their kids out, see monster trucks. Maybe then they start looking at the racetrack. Maybe they talk to somebody who drag races there, and then that kid tells his dad he wants a junior dragster. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden they're out drag racing. Or maybe another kid says, like I was saying earlier, I have a Mustang. Maybe I could enter my car in one of these classes. And now they're hooked on drag racing, and you're making drag racing better without necessarily putting on drag racing events. Now, obviously for me, I want to go drag racing every weekend if I can, but I don't really think that drag racing every single weekend is necessarily in the cards anymore. But, some tracks, like, for example, I've said this 1,000 times, and it's something that you've heard me say 1,000 times. You probably don't necessarily know where I'm talking about, but for example, Kinston and Coastal Plains, they're pretty close to each other, within 30 minutes. If one of them ran 1 week, say they ran $3,000 to win, the other one ran the next week, $3,000 to win, and then they just kept alternating. They run half as much, they use half as much glue, pay half as much for their facilities. I don't know how their insurance plan works, but if they have to pay based on when the gates swing open, they pay half as much on that. The point is, it's 50% of all the cost, but in theory, you're splitting your racers. So if your racers are both willing to go to both tracks, you essentially are making the same amount of money because you're spending half the money. So you have half the overhead,
right?
But you're only open half as much.
That's what I'm saying with the coordination piece. There's a method to the madness there. Say, for instance, that is how you do it. That doesn't mean you have to close your track even at that. But you can open it to your testing tuners, which is automatic money to the track in the first place. Or you can rent that joker out, which is automatic money to the... Look, there's a way to do this for bracket racing with tracks this close, and all it takes is a little bit of coordination. But can we get past the competition phase of everything? That this track is not necessarily better than that track, but I race at this track, so I'm not going to that track. The loyalty piece, and I understand loyalty, but when it comes to what's best for bracket racing, loyalty's kind of out the window in my point. In my point of view, I'm more loyal to bracket racing than I am to any track that there is. So I don't think I speak for myself there. This is what I do. So, Casey, what else you got, man? I know it's buzzing pretty good in the chat. What else you got?
Just Alan Boykins over here saying he thinks No Prep's taking over. What do you think about that?
Well, it's probably taking over something, just not Georgia's garage. I won't say I'm not a fan. I'll go watch some no prep racing. I know my friend Kevin Grider. He'll do some no prep racing. But moreover, I think you're going to see the index, the 470, the 6 flat, 580, whatever it is. Those index classes are what's going to become more and more popular just based on the pay structure. They pay out really well as far as from what I've saw. So I think you're probably going to see a lot of 470 racing yourself once your car's done. So I know my uncle's talking about it, and so is my dad. So who knows? You might see some 470 racing get quite a bit more popular too.
Yeah, man. I think the cool part about that is you have a bunch of fast door cars out there, and again, that brings in spectators. It's the same thing as MPK type stuff. They're not nearly as fast as the MPK cars, but they're relatable. They still look like something. And Verge, they have one of the most successful 470 index door car racing series that travels all around the Southeast and kind of goes over to the Midwest a little bit and down south. But they also have a 450 dragster index. And I'm sure that packs out because it is not hard to go 450 in a dragster anymore. You can buy anything, go 450 in a dragster, no problem anymore.
Is it all heads up or is it like super quick?
No, it's exactly like for example, there's no throttle stops allowed, I don't think, as far as I'm aware. But it's just 450 eighth mile index racing for the dragsters and 470 eighth mile index racing for the door cars, and that is what it is pro tree. It's really cool, man. I mean, at the end of the day, if they only ran that event, which they run bracket races with that too, but if they only ran that event, those are some pretty fast cars on the property. And I think that the Verge series this year, there might have been like 80 door cars in the 470 points. So there's no shortage of it. And the dragsters, I would assume, is probably far beyond that because, like I said, anywhere you go, probably 25% of the dragsters are going to be dialed 440 to 450.
That's true. We've had this conversation a few times. It's just not very hard to go 450 nowadays. But yeah, man, I definitely think it's going to be an interesting 2023. There's going to be a lot more to come, guys, from this winter series because a lot more begin to unfold. You'll see a lot more schedules start to come out where we'll start breaking down races, giving you a thought process behind, hey, this race looks like it's going to be a good one. You probably better put this on your schedule. And all in thanks to Michael Beards putting out that master schedule. So I'll definitely be keeping my eyes peeled on that when I get ready to schedule races for myself. But as far as the local track goes, I really, really hope and put an underline on the word coordination. I hope everybody begins to coordinate quite a bit more. Casey, what you got in closing, man?
I don't know, man. I don't think, again, to reiterate, I don't think bracket racing is going to have any issue in 2023. I kind of always go back to, it's nothing like 2008. Those of you who remember 2008, things are bad right now, but they're nothing like 2008 was. That was a bad time. And one of the worst in modern times as far as recessions go. That would have been more in the, depression realm, I guess you would, if you had to put a word on it. It wasn't as bad as the depression, but it was pretty close. So I don't think we have much to worry about as far as 2023. I think that having Motor Mania, I saw someone in the chat, I missed it earlier. Motor Mania, people need to invest in getting something like that where you're actually televised and you're actually on the internet live, sell your sponsors on that. And you'll be able to have better races and you won't have to come out of pocket or take so much of a risk as a promoter because you have more things to sell, because you have more eyes on it and the eyes are on it forever. Somebody can bring up right now the very first Motor Mania televised race, which I think Mark Walter said on this show when we interviewed him and Joanne. I want to say he said he televised the Yellow Bullet Nationals, maybe in whatever it was, he said there was still dial-up internet or something like that. So that would have been like 2006, something like that, whatever, long time ago.
Don't get me lying, because I don't know, but I don't miss dial-up internet at all.
Right.
Man, gee whiz. Man,
but the fact of the matter is, if you have Motor Mania, now you're actually on TV. Right. So if you're on TV, now you've opened yourself up to a whole new world of advertisement. So people need to just think about the streaming services that are available, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to end it, too, because that's definitely true. The more you can see, the more you can want to go to / the more you can get ideas for your local area in the first place. So that's what makes all this good. Barn is saying, I remember the beginning. The live feed was brutal. So he would know of all. So no, guys, as always, we like to thank everybody for coming in and being with us. We're not going to be live next Tuesday. I've got to get my old specs worked on. They're going to put something in my eye and flash it with a laser, and I'm a bit scared. and I'm going to be off of some type of drug. So if I don't have drugs in me for somebody to touch my eye, it's not going to happen in the first place. Somebody mess around, get punched. But anyway, we will be back, I think, the following Tuesday, Casey. Is that Gleghorn stream? I can't remember.
Yeah, I want to say it's the first week of December. Ryan Gleghorn's going to be with us. He said he has some things to talk about for some upcoming events. And obviously, we think he's one of the best announcers in bracket racing today. So he's been on this show. If you haven't watched him yet, go back and watch the show, get to know Ryan Gleghorn, and we'll bring him back here and see what he has to say, man. He sounds like he's going to do something for bracket racing in 2023. So he must not be thinking the economy's going to go down either. So at the end of the day, that's better for us.
5s and 10s, baby, 5s and 10s. So, hey, thanks everybody for joining in. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. Make sure you have your bell notification clicked so you know when we're going live or we're dropping some new content or some new information. Who knows what that might be. But until the next Tuesday, not this one coming up, but the one after that, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining us.